Good morning, and welcome back to a Thursday morning. At the end of yesterday's chapel, which the title was Tradition and Innovation, in the pinch of the last few minutes, I missed one significant quote that I really wanted to read, so I'm going to read it this morning. And this is related to the role of tradition in informing and regulating and properly setting up parameters for innovation, and how it can be a protective agent, for a positive agent of protection in the process of change. And this is more from Yaroslav Pelikan. He said, "During much of our history and down to our own time, tradition has provided the perennial themes and key metaphors by which creative expression has been preserved from the banality and the trivialization to which a total immersion in the here and now could have subjected it." Well, that's kind of complicated language that essentially says that tradition provides us with the motives, the themes that will preserve us from what would happen if we capitulated to the now entirely. If the only thing that mattered to our tradition was what's right here, what we want today, we would be subject to both banality and trivialization. He goes on to say that when we give a voice to tradition, the quality of conversation deepens. Our thoughts will not be imprisoned by the dead, as often assumed, but instead will be liberated from the confines of the now. This will enable us to think beyond our cultural moment while providing for a fuller expression of it by informing and complementing it. Again, our thoughts will not be imprisoned by the dead when we give a voice to tradition, but instead will be liberated from now, from the confines of the now, allowing us to think beyond our cultural moment while providing for a fuller expression of it by informing and complementing it. I would make an observation as well that culturally around us, particularly in the United States and the West in general, the tyranny of the now has never been more obvious, and the blocking out of the voices of those who have gone past behind us. And so let's honor what was, what formed us. Let's respect those who prefer that. Let's seek what we can to learn from tradition, but let us also be aware of falling prey to traditionalism that condemns all that is new and all that is innovative. In a growing church, there is room for both. Moving on, topic of the morning is education and imitation, training and being trained by the next generation of music-making disciples and music-making disciples. The next generation is our children, your children, born or unborn. We meet today and this week to learn of Jesus. We've read in the scriptures what he has to say about being great, what he has to say about being a servant. We've read his warnings against traditions that supplant and diminish doctrine. And this morning we read the words of Jesus concerning the next generation from Matthew 18, verse 1. At the same time came the disciples to Jesus, saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, "Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Today we think about generations and the span and the training and the things that have come together to bring you to the place where you find yourself today as one who is withdrawing investment capital that somebody else has paid for. Somebody has put in to your life. Someone has invested in terms of musical culture, and now you're able to withdraw it. What does it look like to reinvest? Fortunately, sometimes it looks like going to music camp, and I commend you for that. Of course, I have a conflict of interest there, considering that the more you do that, the more work I have. But I still think it's a worthwhile investment. And again, with the thing in mind of we meet on Sunday morning to worship. We could talk about the priorities of worship and why we assemble. There are various reasons. We admonish each other, we encourage each other, we exhort each other, and we worship together. I like to think about the Sunday morning assembly of Christians as a regrouping of people who have been busy doing the Lord's work in their way and in their place and in their time, and some of them have gotten beat up a bit. Some of them have had a hard time of it in the last week. It might be fightings and fears within, it might be fightings and fears without. At the end of the day, it's fightings and fears, and it hurts. And we get back together on Sunday morning, and it's a chance to put some Band-Aids on. Not just Band-Aids in the house. That wasn't a good one, because Band-Aids are a metaphor for little fixes that don't fix the problem. So I retract that one. That can be stricken from the record. To bind up the wounds, to bring healing and and restoration and redemption to our collective tired selves. And make no mistake about it, many Christians are tired. They're weary. Life is hard for a lot of people. Life contains a lot of things that are broken, things that are messed up. There's brokenness in relationships. There's loss of life. There's loss of health. There's loss of finances. We're surrounded by opportunities for loss, and they'll hit you sometime if they haven't hit you yet. They will hit you sometime. More on that later this week. So we get together and we care for each other and we worship and we exhort and we admonish, and then we head off into another week with our chin up a little further to do it again. And it's good. That's what faithfulness is. Did you know that faithfulness is many times really, really boring? You want glamour? You want pizzazz? You want your church to sparkle and shine and glow? It probably won't look like faithfulness. Faithfulness is routine, mundane, ordinary, following the sandals of Jesus, following and following and following and following. And sometimes the roads are rough. And sometimes it's dark and it lightnings and thunders and stuff. Faithfulness is our calling. But we think about worship, and a significant aspect of it, not the only aspect of it, but a significant one, is song. So glad for that. It seems like I just can't. It's just hard to imagine it not being that way. And we are commanded to sing. But there are people who do not enjoy singing. Now, this does not change the command. To these people, I would say, what does it mean to bring a sacrifice of praise? To offer a sacrifice of praise. It might be offering something that's not enjoyable, or doing something that's not enjoyable. I would also suggest that a sacrifice of praise can sometimes be required for those who really love music. It's very distracting to love music theory, for example, and sit in church on Sunday and take out a hymnal and have all sorts of thoughts about what the harmony is going on, that is interesting. I wonder if, it's a sacrifice for me is pushing those thoughts away. I mean, imagine if you were an electrician and, you read schematics, for your job, and then Sunday you'd come into church and you'd pull out a big old book of schematics that we would use to worship. But you're not really supposed to think about your work, you're supposed to think about worship. I'm saying that's hard to do, right? So this is, the more you love to sing, the more you get better at sight singing, for example, the more distracting worship and song can be. Just naming it, calling it that, and saying, let's push into that. There's a place for it. The reason we can sight read at all has a lot to do with because we sang in church a lot. But it's not true for everyone. And when we think about someone who doesn't like to sing, it's really, really, really reasonable to believe that something happened when that person was young, probably in school, but maybe not, that made it so that that person turned out to be a person who says, I can't sing. Very, very, very few children cannot be taught to sing and enjoy it. It's just minuscule amount in the right context and with the right models. And so we're talking today about modeling singing. The best argument for compelling, magical, musical moments is children being able to see other people and hear and experience other people having magical musical moments. And it's not something you lecture about. You can't talk somebody into a magical musical moment. It's something that surprises us. It's something that comes up and gets us when we weren't ready for it, and it changes our lives. And our task as those who have had magical musical moments is to provide them, to make spaces for them to happen for the next generation. Congregational music can get sick. To remain healthy and vibrant and effective, it requires a farm team. This can be schools, it is homes, it is homeschools, it is looking at children and saying, Jesus said that to become like them in some way, to convert toward childlikeness, which is different, by the way, than childishness. Jesus doesn't call us to be childish. He calls us to be childlike in some way. I'm not exactly sure what all those ways are, but I acknowledge that there are some. One of them is humility. Whoever will humble himself as this little child. And there is something about pride that creeps in. Sometimes it just barges in as we relate to our experience in life and music making. There is that pride that corrupts our best intentions as adults, and often that is missing in children. So I am calling today for you to be a model to children, yes, to some extent, but understand as well, when I'm talking about imitation, I'm asking you to imitate the children, to let them teach you how to sing, because sometimes they do it better. Education is giving instruction to someone. Imitation is using something or someone as a model. Consider children, the significant qualities of whimsy, of spontaneity, of imagination, and perhaps above all of mystery, a respect of mystery. There's enormous amounts of mystery in the life of a child, and there's a respect for that, accompanied by a thirst to learn, and you have the best audience for singing and learning songs that you ever will find. We teach children, yes, but we will miss the boat if we do not let them teach us. Singing is natural. Singing is part of what makes humans, and this is true for all musicking as well, this is what makes humans different from animals. God is the creator. Humans, stamped in God's image to whatever extent that is, are then also creators, sub-creators. Imitators, yes, creators for sure. We make music. Now, is it derivative? I talked about that before. Yes, it is, and it should be. We are being sanctified. We are being made into the image of Jesus, that we want our music to derivate, is that a verb, from Jesus. But loss of singing is a loss of part of our nature, and loss of creative singing is a loss of part of our creative nature. And one of the things that we have struggled with culturally in music is the art of improvisation, of making stuff up. It's hard to do with a big group. You know, the bigger the group, the more technically difficult the improvisation becomes. It's something that's best done alone. But do you do it? Do you make up songs when you're driving, when you're on a tractor, when you're in the shower, when you're resting? Do you sing spontaneously? Children do. They're really good at it. It doesn't take a lot of skill, a lot of training. In fact, training is sometimes part of the problem, I think, for children. I learned this when we started having children, and I'm going to let a song that my son wrote when he was 3. And fortunately, we recorded it. And this is not anything particularly spectacularly different. Most of your children, if you have some, have probably done something like this. This is a secular song. I'm going to warn you, I'm going to play secular music in a sacred setting. And Lucas was playing with some Thomas the Tank Engine trains, the wooden ones that, you put the tracks together. And he decided that it was time for a song to go along with it. And I don't know why. Unfortunately, my wife got it on recording. If you wonder why it's Lucas so much, it's because he's the oldest. Parents, they have like 1,000 pictures of their firstborn and 17 of their fourth. Sorry. That's just the way it is. All right, here's Lucas singing Cabooses.
Praises carrying high, King is carrying high, carrying lots of cabooses, carrying lots of cabooses, carrying lots of cabooses, carrying lots of cabooses. Dashing on his fluid way to the ghost story that it is Percy and Hobbit and friends.
All right. And later he wrote the song called Dump, Dump, Dump. This is the one that I like.
Are you dump? Dump, dump, dump. Are you ready? Marseco. Dump, dump, dump. Marseco. Do-di-da.
All right, that's the end of the song. I suggest to you that it's proper and natural for all children to sing, and it is also proper and natural for all adults to sing, with no need to take a vacation during adolescence. Unfortunately, some children, especially tends to be boys, but it isn't always, stop singing at a certain point in life and never get it back. It would be worth spending some time talking about how middle school teachers can be helpful in guiding the transition of the male voice through voice change, because I am fairly certain that quite a bit of the loss, if there is loss in our male population of love for singing, it can be traced back to that time in their life. And so we think about, well, what are some big picture problems? Maybe children aren't singing at home. Maybe children must only sing the songs that they are taught to sing. Maybe they are not allowed to improvise, to make things up, to sing songs about dump trucks and ghost stories that is Percy and Thomas and friends. And that kind of piling, that slow pressure in to have to sing this song this way at this time for this reason cramps the child's development musically. It is a loss of slow attrition where over time there is that understanding that singing is only this kind of singing, only in this kind of place, and eventually for some people it snaps and they leave it all. because I think we've extracted too much. Some of the improvisational joy and the intersection of the delights of common people making common music as co-creators with God. Singing is sometimes not made attractive or enjoying or appealing. Singing is rewarding. Singing creates grand moments. But as a teacher, if you this is true for parents, it's true for school teachers. You cannot tell children with words that it is awesome to sing. Well, you can, but there's a much better way, and that is to know that it's awesome to sing, and then wear it and do it in their presence. That's how you convince them. We should consider the effect of recorded music on our impressions of music. Recorded music is less than 150 years old. But for us, we don't really know anything else. We know what it's like to hear songs on CDs, on tapes, on long play records. Reel to reel, anybody? Reel to reel? Yes, I see those hands. God bless you. I remember our reel to reel player. But we have expectations from recorded music, that is how all music should sound and even feel, and it's unrealistic. It is mixed, and it is mastered, and it is polished, and I appreciate it. I'm grateful for mixing and mastering and polishing, but it's not the live experience. So much is missing from a recording. The same is true for live streaming. Do it if you have to, but make no mistake, the experience of a live stream is paltry compared to being there. In fact, sometimes if I'm leading a group that's not that great, it might be, but we're having a great time. People are into it, they're committed, but it's like you wouldn't want to put it on a CD and sell it, right? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, okay. A live stream is it's not fair. It's not fair. You're missing that in-person connection. You're missing that level of empathy and sympathy. What you're hearing is sound that probably, just on its own isn't that great, going into microphones that are not that great, going through an internet connection that is not that great. It's good for sentiment. It's nice that grandma can watch from Missouri or wherever she is. Now, that's great. And there are advantages to this kind of technology, but seek out the live music making experiences. Seek them out. Be a producer of them. Be involved in making music. I am not an opponent of consuming music, but I think we have our proportions out of whack. That our children listen to too much music and sing not enough because they model us. That's what we're doing. We're not singing enough. We're not making the music enough. Everyone can be bettered in some way by participation in music. And my philosophy of music is that it must be shared and it must come from within, and avoid the situation of music as an electronic spectator sport. Many people in our society only buy and listen to music. There's a lot of people who say that they're not musical. They can't sing, they can't play an instrument. But even those people generally love listening to music, which betrays, I believe, the fact that they really do have the capacity to make music, but something happened. Something went wrong along the way, and it got missed. And that's a tragedy, and it's appropriate to grieve that. And if there are people in your generation or in your parents' generation who cannot sing, and my heart goes out to them, this is not a criticism, I'm not blaming them for it, but let that be the last generation in your community that says that. Don't let anybody else through that gate of, I can't sing. And you don't do that by force. You don't do that by telling them that. You do it by making spaces culturally, communally, in church, in school, at work, in the home. Did I say home already? And not just devotional music. I'm going to keep pressing on this because I think it's important to who we are as humans, is that we have lives that exist outside of the corporate worship space, and there is music appropriate for that life. And sometimes there's overlap. There is often overlap. There should be overlap. You should be going through your normal day and somebody pulls out in front of you and there might be a sacred song that comes to mind. That's great. Sing it. God be with you till we meet again, or I don't know. But sometimes the songs that are most appropriate for our life experience are ones that would not fit in the context of a worship service, and it's good to sing them. Make singing something for which children can experience commendation, that they can be seen as something worthy, something desirable. Sing whatever songs you know, whatever key you're in, from whatever hymnal or songbook or from memory, and on a wide range of expression. With our children growing up, the evening family time of singing was a wide range of expression in song. We sang folk songs, we sang Land of the Silver Birch, the Erie Canal song, we sang songs of worship and adoration, As the Deer, Seek Ye First is a favorite, The Battle Belongs to the Lord. During COVID, we got a collection of songs of faith and praise gifted from a friend, and that was lovely. And 6 of them. Maya couldn't read yet, but we figured she would someday, so we got 6 of them, one for everyone in our family. You can hold it, you can find it, and now these hymnals they fold open to certain songs. There's about 4 of them that we sang a lot. Children like to sing the same song. If you give them a chance for selections, don't do that if you want variety. Do that if you want investment from the children, because they like to sing the same songs over and over, and that's a good thing. And sing them over and over. We would sing songs of campfire songs, I Love the Mountains, or It Only Takes a Spark, and songs of dedication and trust, My Hands Belong to You. He's got the whole world in his hands. All young children, boys or girls, can and should be taught to sing soprano. Mothers modeling can be helpful with that, but fathers can be a big help as well. It's possible for children to sing a melody an octave higher than their dad. You can do that. It is possible. And don't restrict the singing just to family worship, times of recreation, relaxation, campfire. Do a lively combination. Hymns, gospel songs, folk songs, tunes of the past, tunes of the present. Singing around a campfire doesn't have to be just for youth events. Singing worship in the home. Invest in a set of hymnals. Teach your children how to use them. Show them the different music lines. Encourage them to follow the line. Did you know that it's not intuitive for a 6-year-old who has learned to read how you should read a hymn? Because they're taught to read. You start at the top and you go to the next line, you go to the next line, you go to the next line, right? Then you give them a hymnal and it's like, well, no, it's not that way. You start at the top, you go to the next line, you skip a bunch of lines, come back to the second line, skip a bunch of lines. Well, it's not a tricky thing, but they do need to be taught it. So teach it to them. Tell them how to do it. Show them different things about the hymnal. And let your children catch you humming and singing throughout the day. Whistling, maybe, if it's not annoying. Whistling can go either way. But if you're whistling something, you've caught a good tune. Just notice that. It's people don't whistle bad tunes. And, I mentioned Grandma Zook when she was sweeping after the rain, and I was playing in the puddle. So many good reasons to make music. Consider what you do to children when the main music in a home is primarily recorded, when that's just about the only thing. We can condition them to believe that this is the ultimate way to experience music, when in fact, it's valuable and it's helpful and it will definitely expand. I mean, what are you going to do? How are you going to have Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in your home without a recording, unless you're really good at piano transcriptions and have a good piano? And even that's just not the same thing. So recorded music has value, and I endorse it. But in many ways, it's inferior to the act of making music. So find ways to make singing fun for you. You don't need to tell them that you're doing that. You just do it. Remember that words are seldom helpful here. But it's the modeling that goes the long way. It can be achievable. It can be worthy. It can be doable without being trivial or overly simplistic. Consider the use of physical space. This is kind of coming back to church now again. Some of you are in churches with segregated seating. Some of you are not. There's good and bad to either way in terms of singing. Some benefits of segregated singing is that the parts tend to be closer together, but they're still mixed up, and there's still the guy that sings alto and the girl that sings tenor, and that's okay. If you have segregated seating in your church, be attentive to the boys. If they're always sitting with their dad, are they learning to sing soprano? They should. Just be attentive to that. Don't have them, every time it's open the wells, the boy's trying to sing bass, because it's just not going to be a rewarding experience for him, and he's not going to learn to sing on pitch. And be aware of what's happening there. Our boys must feel free to sing soprano and alto, but especially soprano. What about acoustics? Think about your church space and what makes it helpful to be heard and to hear in your space. We need prophetic architects. We could do better. And, we say it's expensive to hire an acoustic designer. Well, you know what? We built a church recently in our communities. It's expensive to do anything. I mean, the fire alarms and the sprinkler systems and the wheelchair ramps and we buy air conditioners, We wouldn't have to. It's Northwest PA, we'd be hot for like 3 months and then we'd be good. But yeah, but can we spend money to know how to build it right? In fact, our old order Mennonite brothers and sisters have historically for many years done a better job. Build a nice rectangle, don't put carpet down, sit on 3 sides of the building and go for it. It's not rocket science. Think about involving children in the singing. Innovation often involves new music, so how are you going to do this? How are you going to teach it to them? Think about opportunities that you might have for children to participate in worship. I remember one time at the church in Ontario where I was song leader, I wanted to sing number 31 in Hymns of the Church. It's the Silver Trumpets tune from David the Shepherd Boy, "For the praise of God your hearts prepare." And it's a pretty rambunctious song, but most congregations can sing it quite fine. But I wanted the children to know that we were going to sing that song, and so the Children's Sunday School primary department, their superintendent, let me come down to the children's assembly. And what I did is I taught them that little refrain, "Lift up your hearts, sing loud your songs, the Lord Jehovah," or something like that. And we just kind of worked on that refrain. And I said, all right, now after Sunday school, we're going to come upstairs and we're going to sing this song. And when we get to that part, you just give her. Like, that's for you. And as I recall, it wasn't overwhelming, but it was an entrance. It gave them a chance to enter into that. You might consider, if people come to church early and you're going to teach a new song, maybe if it's appropriate in your context, for some it is, for some it isn't, 10 minutes before church starts, say, we're going to sing this new song, and let's just sing through the melody now to kind of get it in our ears, and 3 minutes later you're done, and then when that song comes in the service, it's easier for them to do it. Have a vision and a passion for singing that is non-anxious, that is not stressed out, that is not fixated upon getting the right pitches and rhythms or singing the exact right words at every time. Singing in a non-anxious way, a way that allows for freedom of voice, for freedom of spirit, and for enjoyment. Provide the next generation with strong influences. Don't be discouraged if you feel like you are weak in being able to sing. Sometimes as parents, sometimes as teachers, we have to lean into something that it's not our strength. We're not as good at it, but we do it anyway. It might be hard work. If your son says, "Dad, I want to go fishing," and you're like, "Well, I don't fish, and my dad didn't fish, and my grandpa didn't fish, so that's just what are you going to do?" Well, maybe learn to fish. Maybe. I don't know. I don't really want to. By the way, I don't fish. Jeff could go fishing, I believe. That would be good. No, Jeff says no. Ask Jeff about going fishing. But sing out of your desires. Here's my call. Sing and model and imitate and be imitated out of your loves, out of your desires. The technique may be off, but the heart will win. Be a strong influence in desire. If you know what you want, even if you can't do everything you want exactly how you want, but if you know what you want, that will be a strong influence for children. We cannot demand rewarding singing, But every good experience with music paves the way for more. There will be short-term successes, there will be short-term failures, but the process of building and maintaining a positive mindset towards singing is almost always long-term. It's the long game, and I call you to that. We must sing. The Apostle Paul was a singer, God is a singer, and he sings about you. The Lord thy God in the midst of thee is mighty. He will save, he will rejoice over thee with joy, he will rest in his love, he will joy over thee with singing. So sing. Sing when you're in the truck, when you're in the lawn, on the lawnmower, sing in the bathroom, sing in the laundry room. Sing from the abundance of your heart. You probably have memories of your parents and grandparents singing around the barn or around the house or in the field. Don't become the generation that ends that tradition.